One can't help but look at Hollywood and ask certain questions like, why? And what the hell's going on? Yeah. Certainly when you see once great mighty franchises like Star Wars just collapse and burn twice. The sequel trilogy comes out. Oh, people didn't like it. Last Jedi comes in and just blows it all away. And then Mandalorian comes in, seemingly saving it, and less than a month later, it destroys itself again. And that time, apparently out of spite and whatnot. But certain patterns do form, and outside looking in, one can only speculate. But a certain pattern of the using politically correct and woke elements as a defense keeps occurring, and it works as a shield for any criticism against product that is ultimately very lackluster. There's an awful lot of icing, but almost never any cake in these situations. It's a certain game that's played for positions of power within Hollywood, but it ultimately doesn't serve the studios or the franchises well at all. Because the diminishing returns ultimately burns it all out. But for the individual making use of it, it can be quite lucrative for them. And some are better than others at playing this game. Now, for Star Wars, it all goes back to Kathleen Kennedy. And she wanted to push agenda and kept defending it by they're going to seek this new and younger audience. So it was stupid to pursue anything of the past. And then her other defense was that the reason that there was any criticism of the sequel trilogy was because of either racism or most prominently misogyny, because the main hero of Rey was female, so therefore it was all misogynist. Then Mandalorian comes along, and the second most popular character, second only to Baby Yoda, was Cara Dune, and she fires the actress because she just doesn't have the right woke points. And so there you go. But the problem with Cara Dune is that it shatters the narrative of that, and that might have had more to do with it than not, but also to sabotage Jon Favreau, who was a threat to Kathleen Kennedy's position and that sort of thing. But again, woke points were used here where they declared Gina Carano was transphobic. All of a sudden, people started demanding she put pronouns in her bio, and that's what ultimately brings her down. This is what they wanted her to apologize for and all that. I don't think they ever really cared about any of that. The fact that other people didn't have pronouns in their Twitter bio, yet worked for Star Wars or Lucasfilm, didn't have any problems, but suddenly she gets targeted. So, and now with attacks due to the discoveries that the likes of Data Racer and Ichibaka have made about the Rewriting Ripley podcast and their attacks, that there's all the YouTubers who criticize Star Wars were a part of the alt-right and were radicalized by the likes of Breitbart and what have you. Yeah, and yet there's connections there with Lucasfilm people, actually. So it stands to reason that this was utilized, once again, to circle the wagons and shield it that this is all really terrible people making noise, and that the Star Wars is actually doing very well and is in great shape. Meanwhile, the big bread and butter of franchises like Star Wars is the merchandise, and it collects dust on the shelves, with the exception of Mandalorian merch. So the argument was long over, but apparently within the bubble of Hollywood, woke philosophy carries a lot of weight, because it's, to some extent, some of these people do believe in some of this stuff, so they have to for any of this to really work. Now, another big player who plays this very well for their own careers, not so much, not at all for the franchises, is Bad Robot, J.J. Abrams' outfit. The last good film that J.J. Abrams produced and directed was his Star Trek film in 2009. It all fell apart quickly after that. The other two movies weren't very good. The second one was just god-awful. Then one of his proteges, if you will, or buddies, came out of Bad Robot, was Alex Kurtzman. And he took on the television aspect of Star Trek, and it's terrible. It's just awful. It looked sleek and cool, so all the real work was on special effects and costumes and sets and all that stuff, but it's plot and story and character development, no. Like, once again, all icing and no cake. So what does he do? Well, he defends it as a political platform, and so if you don't like the show, you're misogynist and racist. And so that's it. That's all there is. He doesn't really defend it. No one defends it. No one defended the Star Wars movies. They didn't defend Last Jedi, really. It was all attack, attack, attack anyone who attacked it, or, you know, misogynist and alt-right and all that sort of thing. And so that's how it's played. But it seems stupid because you can watch the show and see there's nothing there. But it doesn't matter because you'll be labeled and you can be canceled and so on and so forth. And in the world of Hollywood, that's terrifying, and it's increasingly terrifying elsewhere as well, of course, but certainly within Hollywood, so you maintain your position. Plus, who knows what entangled contracts one signs at the outset, despite failure and whatnot. But because they're going forward with Star Trek now. It was supposed to make CBS All Access a big thing. It's gone. It died. It's going to be replaced by, already replaced by Paramount Plus. Which has a better chance because of the amount of content it has. But the idea that Star Trek was going to be a flagship show for any streaming service, no, it's not. Its Star Trek franchise is practically dead at this point. They're still producing shows. There's going to be more Star Trek Discovery and a new series of Strange New Worlds and all that. But, you know, but this is like, why after so much failure, how could you keep renewing that? Well, woke points. So Bad Robot came in like a swarm of locusts, gutted the carcass, and moved on. So now J.J. Abrams is over at Warner Brothers to produce shows for them, and the DC characters is the new franchise for him to go in and reboot. He was offered more money to go produce stuff for Apple TV, but the problem for Apple TV is they don't have any franchises for him to exploit. And he doesn't have any ideas of his own. The Bad Robot's last great production was Lost, and I think that was the peak for it. And that was it. Since then, it's just been, again, more diminishing return creatively. So they go to these established brands, but they don't really have anything. No great ideas, teases of mystery box plots, but the payoff is never any good. And that sort of thing. And that runs out very quickly. So what do? Well, you shield it with, well, you're a misogynist, you're a racist if you don't look at my show. This is a template that's played out. You can go back to Ghostbusters 2016, which the only purpose there was, well, now it's an all-female cast, and if you don't watch it, you're a misogynist. And that was it. And so yet it keeps being repeated one way or another. And so you keep getting these products that's all icing and no cake. And I expect to be more of the same here, because already the announcements come that, well, he is going to do Justice League Dark, and then there will be these solo projects on the side, which is that's a good idea. It's kind of how the DCEU should have been handled, but they wanted to catch up with Marvel and then ruined it, really. He's the Constantine has been announced. Of course, he can't be white. No, he can't be white, and he can't have his religious background. So the character's a completely new one. Well, he could just do that, and that would be something I could respect, but he doesn't have the confidence that he can produce that character. So he just wants the name brand, and then to shield it because he knows it's empty and there's nothing there and it's not that great. He doesn't have any ideas. So you shield it with, well, you're racist if you don't like it. So as to what he'll do with Swamp Thing and Zatanna, well, we'll see, but odds are. Now, Zatanna's a woman, so maybe they can just leave it as that, but say it's not that great, so therefore you're a misogynist if you don't like it. I don't know what you do with Swamp Thing. I don't know, be anti-environment if you don't like it. I don't know. Oh boy, there was hopes that the series that they had already produced would get revived, because it was rebroadcast on CW and all that. But I suspect, J.J. Abrams is able to play the field here, and he's very good at that. And the word is that the CEO of Warner Brothers, who's now she's recently said it's all under her belt now, her purview. It was his pick to replace Sugihara, who got Me Too'd out because he had an affair, with an actress who slept with anybody who would get her a gig. So he's just another dumb guy who got sucked into that. So she's there, and so he's got a lot of power with that company now, regardless of what he produces. So he wants this franchise under him, and that he can go on, his company is paid to produce all that. So why won't there be Justice League sequels? Well, even if Snyder Cut has performed very well. Don't know for sure right now, but even if it did, it would have to leap Mount Everest in a single bound to overwhelm the needs of AT&T and all that, and say, no, this is where we're going. Instead, you're not going to get any of that as of now. Sarnoff says, no, that's it. We're so happy Zack Snyder got to complete his story. Well, he didn't. But meanwhile, there's the Air Cut, which apparently would be easier to put together. And then she says, no, we're not doing that. Despite there is fan demand for that as well. And that Restore the Snyderverse and all that. It's the only excitement that they've had for the franchise of DC characters was that. And that's why AT&T said, all right, let's do that, because we're in debt and we need the money. And it's all they had going for them. But in the woke world, it doesn't matter. And it doesn't help. If Abrams had any involvement with Snyder and all of that, and that all became a Bad Robot thing, then he'd probably be pumping it up and it would happen. But it goes against his interests. So he doesn't want to share Superman with the Snyderverse. Even though like people say, hey, it could be the multiverse. It's yeah, but there's only so much money to go around. And it's a cool little Easter egg type thing, but it's not something I think that they can exploit further. If the theater situation restores itself and you see a viable means by which, Matt Reeves' Batman would be the movie theater version, and then Ben Affleck's Batman would be an HBO Max series and all that. Yeah, I could see how that could work, depending on how much money it would all cost. But it's not going to happen because JJ doesn't want it that way. As to whether he links up with his Superman with Matt Reeves, which sounds possible, or they'll just skip the whole shared universe thing altogether. Don't know. Another player in this is Dwayne Johnson, who still wants a Black Adam versus Superman, and he means Henry Cavill's Superman. Perhaps, but that'll probably be all there is to it. Wonder Woman might get a third movie, and then that'll be it. But Wonder Woman 84 was pretty bad. Oddly enough, which Wonder Woman do you like? Well, the original Wonder Woman, and boy, she looked really great in Snyder Cut. There's a lot to be said that there's something to look at, whether it turns out the way it was intended, which the whole plot about Bruce Wayne falling in love with Lois, I would want that written out. I don't think that's a good idea. But the rest of it, it's pretty good. But everything is woke project. The New Gods has got a woke writer on it, and a racist directing it. Superman will apparently be Black Superman and written by a racist. So the idea that, we're concerned about toxic fandoms and whatnot. No, you're not. It's just an excuse to cover up things and to diminish the demand for the product they actually want. So the returns will not be great, and because there isn't an audience for this stuff. But for the purposes of Bad Robot, in this case, it's pretty good because they're paid. And he has control of these projects. Maybe accidentally one of them turns out pretty good, but that's quite the long shot at the moment. So it boils down to that kind of shenanigans going on. And Bad Robot is just one entity. There's a bunch of people doing that, of course, like Kathleen Kennedy and whatnot. Star Wars, I don't really blame Bad Robot for so much of that. And they were kind of just doing what they were told, and that's about it. He's going to be completely responsible for what he's about to do to this. And so, but that's the game. That's how it's played. And even though it says, hey, this makes perfect sense, just because something makes sense doesn't mean it's going to happen. And so there you go. Yeah. Just call the fans toxic and nasty. And apparently it works, even though it's not true. And nobody showed up to watch your show. Because, again, they want cake under that icing. And from what I can see, since 2009, Bad Robot and Company aren't capable of baking a cake anymore. But they can hire some icing and then call everyone racist, misogynist, and what have you if you won't eat it. And that's it. So it doesn't look good for the DC characters on screen, except for, I guess, Superman and Lois on CW, amazingly enough. But even that might be in danger, because if that is seen as a threat to Bad Robot's interests, yeah, that might have to go. So, yeah, I am only speculating, but I suspect even the smearing of Geeks and Gamers from Zack Snyder that might have been a Bad Robot play from behind the scenes. Certainly, there's plenty of people at Warner's were done with Zack and didn't want anything to do with him. And that's it. So, again, if Snyder Cut did leap Mount Everest in a single bound, that'll overwhelm the situation and they'll have to address it. But as of now, it's not happening. And that's to the benefit of Bad Robot and to the detriment of DC fans everywhere. Shh. Bad reboot! Thanks for watching and listening. Say, while you're still here, why not like and subscribe and share with your many friends? Yes. Also, check out my mini stores in the link description below. Yes, where you can get t-shirts, hats, mugs, all those goodies with my artwork on them. Oh, yeah. And head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book, Night Night. Oh, yeah. You can also catch me at my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, on RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on BitChute.com and now on Rumble.com. Oh my goodness, so many places to watch me and my stuff. Oh yeah. And if that's not enough for you, well, you can follow me on many social media platforms and say hi to your old pal, Mr. Nailsin.